Well, thank you very much. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here and to be with others who are as interested as I am in government and how you make government better and do it under the rubric of innovation. Because the public at large, I think, sometimes doesn't think of innovation and government in the same sentence. But the plain fact of the matter is that the public sector is where an enormous amount of innovation is going on day in and day out, often unrecognized, and it's nice to have recognition this evening. So thank you. Thank you to the judges and the awards presenters, the Ash Institute, and I want to especially pause and thank the Arizona Department of Corrections, their wonderful director, Dora Schreiro. Several of their staff are here because that's why I'm here, actually, because they are going to be recognized later. So. And I will share with you how this happened, and we are going to be recognized in Arizona tonight for something we call Getting Ready, which is the program. Program really underestimates it. It is the environment we have created within our prison system to deal with the 37,000 some odd inmates that we house, most of whom will be re-entering communities. The environment we have created to, as I asked the director when I was interviewing her for this position, I said, I want somebody to put corrections back in the Department of Corrections, that we need to shut the revolving door and really look at what we're doing here. So she accepted the position, and I put her name in for confirmation by our state senate, and she moved to Arizona, and we promptly had two of our prison officers taken hostage by two life inmates and held hostage for 15 days. And if you ever want to bond with an agency director, go through a 15-day hostage crisis. That will do it. And I will tell you, not only is that the longest hostage situation in American prison history, but everyone got out alive. So no loss of life or significant injury. So anyway, so the mission was to put correction back in corrections, and I'm gonna use this as the pivot into what was done here and what has been done on some of these other programs. How do we get from there to talking about innovation more generically? In other words, how do you go from a specific to a general? To get it down to three basic points, it seems to me that to go from the specific to the general, you have to do at least three things. First, you have to focus on outward, on real issues. In other words, you have to look at the big matrix of what you're trying to do. In Arizona, in any state in a prison system, you are going to be dealing with how do you reduce the rate of recidivism? How do you do so with a cost that is affordable to taxpayers? How do you do so in an environment in which you have some percentage of inmates who are going to be difficult, if not impossible, to control? So you need to be really focused on what is it that you are trying to solve or to innovate about. The second is that it needs to be solutions-based and more than incremental. And this is where I think a chief executive or a chief elected official, a mayor, a governor, president, some presidents, could, sorry, I know this is not a partisan event, but no, it really is kind of set the goal. Where is it? What is the solution that you are attempting to get to, and what are some methodologies for getting there? In our situation, we looked at what was going on in prison and decided way too much of the energy and time was spent on kind of a control environment that really did not prepare an inmate for the fact that when he or she was out of a prison situation, they were going to have to be in charge of their own lives. They were going to have to, have their own schedule, make their own decisions on how they spent their time, budget their own money, get their own job skills, get their own education. That none of that was going on. That basically they were simply being told, go here, go here, go here, go here in a normal prison environment, as opposed to really getting ready for the life they would lead outside. And so the solutions-based was really looking at creating essentially a parallel universe within a prison system, a parallel universe to the life an inmate would lead on the outside. I'll talk about that more in a minute. So you need to focus outward on the big picture. You need to have a solutions-based approach on innovation. And then, obviously, it has to be efficient and effective. In other words, just talking about something that sounds good doesn't necessarily mean that it is, or that it is as good as it can be. And so the matrices on how you have transparency and accountability, the buzzwords that are used in evenings such as this, really translate into real costs, real lives on the ground. When you do, as we have done in the last 5 years, when you reduce your recidivism rate by over 35%, and you talk about 37,000 inmates, and a number of those coming out every year, whatever, who are not coming back, and that means not only are they not coming back, that means, hopefully, that means a certain number of crimes are not being committed, a number of victims are not being created, families are not being disrupted, and all the other things that go with removing somebody from society into a prison situation. When you reduce that recidivism rate, that overall cost savings is huge in so many, many ways. And that is something you can measure and judge yourself by. And so when we looked at corrections, and we've done this in some other places within state government, those were the kinds of things we were looking to do. Now, the question arises, how do you do it? What are some of the techniques that can be employed? Well, one of the chief techniques that we have used is finding different types of partnerships, different types of ways to add on, to have value added to simply those who are in state government. And I'll give you three types of examples. One is we looked at creating institutions that would cross different silos within government. Example, any governor will tell you when they get up here that when you talk about education and people involved in public education, you have your preschool people, you have your kind of K through 12 people, of which there are subsets of the K through 6, the 8 through 9, and the high school. Then you have your community college and university people. They all have different funding streams. They all have different governance models, and they rarely have ever talked to each other. And so you very commonly get the situation where the community college or university presidents will come complain to you that the kids graduating from the high schools aren't ready to begin their freshman year curriculum. And you say, well, have you talked to the people running the schools about what a graduating senior needs to complete a freshman year curriculum? And the answer is no. Well, these kinds of things don't happen by osmosis. There has to be an ongoing and a dynamic way in which information is exchanged between different silos, all of one institution, education, under the general rubric of government. To deal with that in Arizona, we devised what we call the P20 Council, from preschool to university, that I chair, that has all of the stakeholders along the way in the education system, as well as representatives from employers in our state, for example, because ultimately the goal is to have and be able to fill the employment needs that we see not just now but in the future. So collaborations among different silos within government is one type of partnership that can lead to innovation. A second type is to look at breaking through different types of government. Example, you have a gang problem. We have a large gang problem in Arizona. A lot of it involves gangs that are associated in some way or another with illegal immigration across the border into our state. Well, that means you've got city issues with law enforcement, you've got state, and you've got federal. But very, very often in the law enforcement world, you've got the city police, the state public safety officers, and then the feds, and you run into the same issue. They're all doing their own thing, but nobody is leveraging their assets one against the other. And so we call it a task force, a phrase which I really don't like, by the way, because it's overused. But really what it is we basically said people will get paid and we will combine salary, vehicles, radios, overtime, all the kind of nuts and bolts to have an effective multi-jurisdictional gang enforcement unit. And that unit will focus on gangs that are associated with illegal immigration. And I won't give you the stats tonight, but as you might imagine, that has been a very successful effort to innovate by collaboration at different levels of government within a federalist system. And then the last area of collaboration is between the public and the private and not-for-profit sectors. And there are lots of examples of ways to do this, but one of the things I have seen is there's a lot of good intentions in the not-for-profit and private, in the business community, private sector, what have you, but it's not very effectively marshaled, and it's very atomized, and you get lots of different little pilot projects. So we'll support this school, or we'll adopt this program, or this or that. But it's not ever really brought together into one major initiative in which both the public and private sectors bring resources to bear, and both get a win out of it. Both yield something that they each want. And unless the private sector is actually getting something that is going to help it through some facet, a lot of times their attention is going to be somewhat short. They're going to move on to something else. So we went to work thinking about something that would unite the public and private sectors, where all would be benefits on all sides. And one initiative that we began with, we called it the Mature Worker Initiative. And by mature, we mean age, not behavior. But in any event, here was the problem. We have large senior population in our state, and they need more money. And many of them have not only the capacity to work, but they want to work. They want something to do. In other words, not doing anything for a year or two has run its course, and they're looking for something to do, and they just plain need more discretionary income. We have employers who wanted access to more senior employees for a variety of reasons, such as dependability, such as skill sets that they saw in that community. And so what we did is, using the public orbit as kind of the convener, brought together private employers with our outreach into senior centers and the like with seniors to unite them, and then through the website and other vehicles, kept that ongoing as a way for older workers, should they desire to have access to the workplace, and employers who wanted to hire older workers to have access to those employees. And that united the public sector, the private sector, and everybody gets a win out of it. So one of the ways to innovate are these different types of collaboration, which take different forms as you work through the kind of problems and solutions that you are trying to find. Next, the role of technology cannot be overstated, and it is a great tool to have that even those involved in government 10 years ago had nowhere near had the kind of tools available that we have today. And so you have, for example, a state budget that only allows you to hire so many highway patrol officers. I mean, you only got so many dollars, you can only hire so many officers, but If you put in an officer's car a computer which is consistently updated with license plate numbers of stolen cars, cars of people of suspicion, and the like, then they're not just running around the highways hoping to get lucky and pull somebody over. When they pass a car that has a license plate number that's in the system, they get pinged in the car right then and there, and they can go ahead and make a stop. So the technology becomes a way to make your law enforcement not only more efficient and effective, but quite frankly, they spend less time pulling over people who have not committed any sort of offense and focusing their energies where it's more likely to yield a serious offender. Online licensing. One of the big costs of bureaucracy in all levels of government is licensing, filling out forms, and all the rest. And I think you can go state by state now across this country and find out that so much of this now is being moved online. And one of the fears I have, quite frankly, is as we move into a new administration of whichever party, hopefully they will go back into really looking at immigration reform, but some of the proposals there would really interfere with state and local abilities to use online licensing, online application for benefits, and all the rest. And that's something that we are going to have to work out. Last, I've already talked about different types of collaborations that are solutions-based, costly and effective. I've talked about really looking at technology and how that can be employed, but there also need to be gatherings such as this where ideas can be shared, and also where we take that hackneyed phrase that states are the laboratories of democracy and really test it, really see what is out there, what is new, what is innovative, what is working, so that as in these awards, states, localities can imitate. And there's lots of those things going on, but I was, for example, this evening, just in the cocktail hour, learned, for example, that these innovation awards are not linked up with the National Governors Association and their innovation efforts in government. Well, there you've got the place where all 50 governors go and send their staffs to focus on government. Well, what an easy linkage that is to make between two vital places where people are really seriously studying how we make government better and more responsive. So those kind of opportunities to link together at different levels are so very, very important. And to continue to challenge ourselves to think of new ways that we can better our performance for the people whom we're privileged to represent. When you talk about innovation in government, obviously it's something I'm very passionate about because, in my view, too often, particularly during political campaign seasons, government gets denigrated. Government is something you run against. Government is something that should be reduced or eliminated. Government is something that you should get but not have to pay for. And you see all those kinds of leitmotifs going through campaigns this year, as they seem to do every campaign cycle. And to me, it would be much more innovative if we actually entered into a dialogue with people about what is the role of government, what can it do better than some other institutions within our society, what are other institutions better prepared to do, and then how do we continue to challenge ourselves and put our best and brightest minds into filling that very important public function. That's the kind of innovative dialogue I'd like to see us have during a campaign, even as we celebrate the Innovation Awards tonight. Thank you very much.